So, I guess it'll make sense for me to explain how I feel about free will first. I don't think we have free will. I think we have the illusion of free will based off of... God. Based off of just our brain doing things, right? So what I mean by that is... Everything you do, all your activity, your thoughts, your everything, it is just casual physics and your brain doing things. Everything really is just your brain doing things. So if we want to look at it like that, I think all of your actions, everything you do, influences your next choices, right? I think humans are just victims of circumstance. There's nothing we as our brain can do to influence our choices as our brain. That is insane. But like there's no part inside your brain that's like making choices. I mean, there is, but it's not you, right? Like, you are not responsible for the choices that your brain makes, because you are your brain. There's nothing happening more than casual physics within your brain, if you want to take that approach. I mean, you could approach, if you want to look at the mind computationally, then determinism is the only option. I don't think there's a world where you view the brain as a computer and you also have free will. I think we have we certainly have the illusion of free will. Everyone feels like they make choices. That's obvious. But people cannot agree on how these choices actually come into fruition. Just think of it like this. The universe has physics. Your brain, every bit of matter in the universe follows the same laws of physics. Right? Matter cannot be created nor destroyed, yada yada yada, right? So, when we apply that same idea to the brain, your brain, everything your brain does is just physics. And then that results in everything you do as just being physics. Right? And I think there's a lot of things that kind of support that argument. And there's things that go against it, for sure. But for the most part, it doesn't look like we have free will. Now there is, if we want to look at free will as in like you yourself are making the choices, which again, you is just another construct created by your brain performing physics. if you make those choices, scientifically, there is nothing that provides help for this. I think religiously, nothing against religion. I think religiously, you can certainly make very valid arguments for free will, right? Because you have a soul, you have your I forget what they're called. But there's many different interpretations of an inner world from the perspective of people who are religious. What there is not a lot of is support for the idea of free will if we want to approach things from the things third-person science allows us to do. Right? You know, and I think a lot of people kind of know, in a way, that determinism is true, but they just don't... Not that they won't accept it, but it's just not something they've thought about. Like, if you think about it, the fact that every previous thing that has happened to you is just your brain performing casual physics, and then it basically what your brain is doing is it's taking in things, it processes them, and then that influences how your brain will later process things. Which, therefore, your decisions are caused by your brain states. Which, again, is just casual physics. There's nothing more going on beyond that. Yeah, and if we want to look at it like you make choices every day, that's just you experiencing your brain doing things. Like, there's no magical inner glow that is providing you the ability to make these choices. It's just your brain doing that. You are just your brain experiencing the universe as it interprets it. Again, if you want to take the approach computationally, which most people do. I mean, I'm not going to say that there's not people out there who don't, but I mean, the average Joe probably believes in neuroscience. Even religious people, you know, I'd say there's a good portion of people who follow religions and stuff like that that would, you know, look at neuroscience and be like, yeah. Because then they would interpret, you know, however they want to fit their religion into what the science says. Wowza. Ooh, I need lava. And I don't think it's totally unreasonable to believe in free will. I'm just saying that the science doesn't support it. Like another example, like for example, this video. The future of this video exists whether it's 5, 10, 15 minutes from now, the future of this video exists. And even though you haven't seen it yet, it's still there. Which is kind of how the theory of relativity comes into the play of my idea of free will. Where it's like, the future already exists, and it's just our brain moving through the space-time as a continuum. Like, every spatiotemporal moment is just casual physics playing, meaning of which that all your thoughts and brain activity are not chose, they're the result of. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And I think, honestly, I have talked to a large number of people, at least a dozen. I mean, personally, about free will. And the knee-jerk reaction is that we make choices, which we do. But I don't think making choices and having free will are the same thing. I make choices. I made the choice to, you know, record this video or, you know, click on this furnace right now. Like, that was a choice. That doesn't mean I did it freely. It was just the result of previous system states. But again, it's kind of just my view because of how I view consciousness and how I view brain activity in general. There's multiple different views you could take on the situation and on the brain in general. I think people, if people accepted determinism, I think the world would be a better place. Unironically. Because a lot of, I think a lot of like, if people accepted the idea that individuals were victims of circumstance and not individually making their choices, you know, maybe we could, like, get somewhere, politically. But then again, you have to accept a lot of other things to be true. I mean, we don't even know that the universe exists. Like, there's a lot of, which sounds crazy at first. I mean, there's just so much, science when it comes to the brain that I think a lot of people just miss out on in their day-to-day lives because they don't, not necessarily that they don't care, but just that it's not really that important. I mean, it's interesting for sure, but there's not any use applications for it. Like, there's no practicality of knowing the reality of the universe. There was a guy who was talking about the number of people who actually care about the truth is very small. And like, as much as I would like to believe I'm like a seeker of truth or whatever, hippy dippy, you know, whatever, it's just not true. I mean, I 100% find myself defending ideological positions rather than totally pursuing reality. Not that I'm just like super dogmatic in any way, but that I definitely, when I'm like, you don't debate someone, I mean, some people do, but most of the time you're not debating someone to learn. You're debating someone to prove yourself right. Debating is definitely one of the best ways of learning, but it's not, it's not the main reason people are debating, is my point. I think that, there's a lot of, I think, a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to discussion around cognitive science in general, especially with free will. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of variables that come into play. While the fact that we have free will may be obvious at first glance, there's a lot of other things that come into play. Like, it may seem obvious that, like, the brain produces conscious experience, you know, but for a lot of people who are very dedicated to understanding the brain, it's really much more complicated than that. And if we apply that same thing to free will, you see there's a lot of like, at first glance it's very obvious that we have free will, you know? You could say that. But realistically, it's not true in that the science doesn't support it. Which is interesting, because if anyone is interested in free will, it's likely to be that they are more interested in things as a whole, not just the, you know, they're more interested in science and more, you know, philosophical concepts. You know, they're more interested in those sort of things. So you think the type of I guess devotion, maybe, to really look at those concepts and kind of understand them is definitely higher than the average person's, for sure. So it's interesting that they hold such contradictory views, and that the science says no. I personally believe in determinism just because I feel like it makes the most logical sense. But again, there is other, you know, reasons to believe otherwise. I just don't think they have great syntax, I suppose. I think a lot of what... I think in general, the idea of not making... Like, the idea of determinism is so bizarre conceptually that it makes... It makes a lot of... Like, it's just... The idea that you don't make choices is so crazy to people. But then again, those are different things. If we really want to get technical, making choices and free will are not the same. That'll be a good thumbnail. But, I guess I should talk about quantum states. But quantum mechanics just... If let's say quantum mechanics... I think quantum mechanics is really interesting. Again, though, I don't think it promotes free will. I think, in fact, it again further enhances determinism through the fact that if, again, we're looking through a system with causal physics, such as our universe, quantum states are either A or B, right? So that would, let's say, you know, you go to make a choice. And it's 50-50. You pick A or B. Now, whichever one you chose, it was just luck. It was just a probabilistic outcome. Instead of you actually making that choice. I guess free will in my opinion, all it really boils down to is... just physics. I mean, it depends how you really want to look at things. I don't know. I think humans in general are just dogmatic, though. And that a lot of what people think in general is just not the reality of the situation. But I guess that's a separate conversation from this video. I don't, as much as I would like to defend free will all day, I don't have a huge amount to say. Or not defend free will. Defend determinism. It's just like, it's a thing where it's like you either get it or you don't. So, yeah, I think that's it. Let me know what you think. Like if you want more videos like this. Don't mind yapping at a camera. Or a mic, I guess. My webcam's not on. Yeah.